Hello, everyone. Hello, Heather. It's great
Hi.
to be with you today. How are
Yes.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm feeling very good. I'm really excited for this conversation because I think we'll be talking about something near and dear to both of our hearts, and
Mhm.
that is introversion, and more specifically, how to get yourself out there, especially with dating as an introvert.
Mhm.
We talked a little bit about this before. Would you define yourself as an introvert?
Oh, I love that you asked that question. Um, Up until recently,
Mhm.
I was unsure. I'm going to
Yeah.
be honest. Through my youth, I didn't know. I just thought maybe I'm shy, but I like being around people, but only in certain amounts of time. And why does it feel better to be, kind of at peace and because I think society, right, kind of wants us to be a certain way. And so I thought, let me just be the loud cheerleader type, but why doesn't that feel really, really good? And so I think that I have some traits of an introvert. And once I really understood what an introvert was, more about expelling of energy. And I've always heard like this battery level, right? That we need to make sure we're very aware of. Um, but then, of course, I get into a job that is the most social ever, which is dating and singles, right? Um, and so I think so. I think that I would identify myself on the spectrum of an introvert. And I love that I kind of had that light bulb moment because I was able to say, that's why that that's where it feels good to kind of rediscover myself as in the quiet spaces, is inside of a book, is creating things in a very quiet place. And when I go camping or hiking, I love to just be central and by myself. And once I accepted that about myself, it was almost like this weight was lifted off of me. So kind of a long-winded answer for you, Molly, but I think so. I think I do. I would categorize myself and you as well, right? What about you?
Yeah, I relate to everything you said. It's really difficult because people think being an introvert just means being shy, but it's way more nuanced than that. And I agree. I feel I'm an introvert, but I still love people. I love socializing, but yeah, like you said, my social battery is very limited,
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the, I feel, greatest disadvantages of being an introvert is that it is hard for us sometimes to be social and put ourselves out there. But like you said, we have this advantage of having a very elaborate inner world. We can really appreciate nature, art, and whatever inspires us. What are some other advantages and disadvantages to being an introvert, especially when it comes to dating and relationships?
That's a good question. I think a disadvantage is allowing yourself to um, feel like you need to succumb to what other people want you to be.
Mm.
On the way in to kind of prepare for our chat, I watched a TED Talk. A woman who is an introvert, her name is Susan Cain. She presented this whole conversation about being an introvert, and she said that when she was little, she loved to read. She loved to read, and so she went to summer camp. She pulled out a book, and everybody's looking at her like, "You're at summer camp and you want to read?
Yeah.
Let's go!" And she's like, "Oh, I have to kind of put this away, right? This thing that is it recharges me. Maybe it's not the right thing." So I think society's kind of misunderstanding of what an introvert is something that we have to be aware of. And discovering yourself, discovering what makes you recharge your battery. And then also when dating, we have to be very careful of selecting a partner that's a polar opposite to us, right? Because sometimes we get excited um, about somebody that has that larger than life energy. They love being in a room full of people. They're a light bulb in that room. They walk in and they just radiate this energy that everybody kind of comes to, which is really special for us as introverts to watch and be around. And And that's beautiful. There is such a connection as two people that are opposite of one another. But when the expectation is that I can be that too, that's where it gets tricky, right? And then this misunderstanding of, why do you need to be at home? Maybe a few years later, you're in this relationship with this person that is larger than life, and they're starting to misunderstand your need for recharging your battery. No, it's okay. I'm not gonna go to this event tonight. You go ahead. I love you. And then it's like, why? You don't want to spend time with me? What's wrong? So the misunderstanding of two different traits or two different personality types can be tricky to navigate in a relationship. So the thing that I always say is, before you start entering into a relationship, really rediscover yourself. Really understand what makes you happy and what makes you feel really, really good and grounded. And really, when you're sharing that and opening up to somebody when you're dating, pay attention to how they react to that need for recharging. If they're curious and they're like, that's really interesting, tell me more. I love that you ground yourself. And how do you do that? I think that's a beautiful way to connect. But if it's a complete misunderstanding, it's
Yeah.
just doomed to fail, So I think just be very aware of self first.
That's always good advice. I totally agree.
Yes.
I think it's interesting you say that introverts were always drawn to extroverts, but is it bad? Should we exclusively date introverts? But that feels like we'd be, shut off in our own little world even
Right.
worse, I-
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
there is there like a line of extroversion versus introversion, or is that these things that just need to be communicated before starting a relationship?
Such an incredible question. The easiest answer would be almost the wrong answer, right? Is, well, opposites attract, it's sexy, it's exciting, it's understanding that what is most important in a relationship is your values, what's important to you. And then all of these things, the way that we behave or practice, or the way that we socially engage with others, or the things that we need for ourselves, there's almost an understanding and an acceptance, because what matters most to us is there. So if you focus on that first, on your core needs, your values, what's most important in your life, there really is a wonderful, synchronicity. So what is that word? Sync up that happens because you get each other, because the foundation of your relationship is based on your needs and values. And I share that because my personal experience, as well as helping clients, but my personal experience, my husband is that light bulb in the room. My husband is, and I just watch him in adoration. I watch him, and then when he's on the couch and we're kind of snuggling up at night watching TV, and it's a TV program I'm not interested in, and usually it's the History Channel or something of that sort, I've got my book with me, and he looks at me and he's like, what you reading? And there's just this understanding of each other and each other's differences in personality, because we both value the same things. So I think that's probably most important to pay attention to.
That's really beautiful. And I feel like that's every introvert's relationship goals.
Yes.
Okay, but we need to back up a little bit, because what about like way before that? How do you even get yourself out there? How do you meet people? Because
Ooh.
for introverts, that's the scariest part. We can get to know someone and really open ourselves up, but how do you even go out and meet people?
Yes, exactly. Well, I've got a couple of treasures. I've got a couple of steps that I thought long and hard about in preparation for this conversation, because I don't want to give the wrong advice. So I think I've come up with a couple of things that are easy to fold into daily life. And that's step one, is take your normal daily life and find opportunity to practice, practice, practice. And what I mean by that is, You look at your normal week. Maybe you drive through the coffee line to get your coffee on the way to work, or maybe on your Saturdays, that's where you go to drive through the coffee shop and then you come home or curl up with a good book. Well, I challenge you, whomever is listening, to one time in the week, park the car and get out of the car. And not with the intention that you're going to go in and strike up a conversation with a perfect stranger. We're talking baby steps here.
Yeah.
When you stand in line, pay attention to your body language. How are you communicating with your body? Because sometimes a conversation is difficult. Sometimes figuring out what to say can be complicated. You don't have to use words all the time to speak. So if you're in line at that coffee shop and you're doing the whole, looking down, looking around, your arms are crossed, what message are you sending? Practice. It's going to feel awkward at first, right? Arms down, stand up straight, but really just allow yourself the openness, chin up, and just smile. And just by practicing in your normal daily life, switching, getting out of the car and going through that coffee shop line, you're showing and representing confidence and you're feeling good. And so when you have the opportunity to socialize with others, your body is really practiced and ready and used to using body language to say hello. You don't always have to use words, just making eye contact, putting your shoulders back, a little smile on your face can go a really, really, really long way. So that would be step one.
Okay.
Tiny, tiny step, just getting out of the car and just putting your shoulders back and standing in line. But my second one is master the art of the open-ended question.
Ooh.
Yes. Okay. So we're taking step one and combining step two. So now we're at the grocery store. And typically introverted Heather wants to go through the self-checkout.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just like, I've got a couple things. I'm going to go through self-checkout. I'm going to, pack up my stuff and be on my way. I'm busy. I'm a mom. I've got places to go. Always a good reason to just, go, go, go. However, take those just few items. Again, use your body language. Go through the checkout line where you have a human being helping you and practice the art, master the art of an open-ended question where it doesn't matter if you make a complete, embarrassment of yourself. This person's never going to remember what you've done. So instead of saying something like, it's hot outside, huh? Yes, no, that's weird. Maybe something like, because we're dealing with a heat wave right now.
Mm-hmm.
So saying something like, how are you surviving this heat? And again, shoulders back, little smile on your face, and just see what they say.
That's amazing. I'm going to use that. That's great advice.
Right? Just try that and practice that. And then guess what? If they bounce back with another open-ended question, how about you? And trust me, I've done this, Molly. I don't know if you've done the same, where it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting you to ask me.
But
But
you suddenly forget how to speak and you're like,
exactly.
oh.
And then you go brain dead. But guess what?
Yeah.
When you're on a date and you've taken the time to meet this person, and as an introvert, by expelling that energy of any sort, you're really putting yourself out there. These are important conversations. So practicing and messing up in your day-to-day where it doesn't really matter is setting you up to build new habits so that you can become more confident and you can become more conversational without exerting all of your battery power to make conversation and connection. So practice, practice, practice in your normal daily life.
I love that. I love the idea of practicing with low stakes people for high stakes situations such as love and dating,
That's
but
perfect.
but the problem, I think, for most people, especially introverts, is, we have sometimes wild imaginations. We want it to be like a Disney movie, perfect. And even if we've worked up the confidence, we're, Mr. or Mrs. Charming with the grocery store clerk. But when it comes to dating, it's so awkward and uncomfortable because it is a little more intense. Excuse me.
Yeah.
How would you like accept the awkwardness? How do you embrace this? Or understand that sometimes it's just the way it is. How do you move past that fear of being awkward?
Ah, you go through it,
Yeah.
you go through it and you kind of look at, I think, redefine the awkwardness. Stop thinking about it just being this bad thing. I think human beings, we beat ourselves up so much when really the person that's right for you, the quirk that you think is like embarrassing and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? That person that you end up finding is going to think that it is the most adorable trait, and quirk about you and love it about you. So again, I implore anybody of any social ability or, introverts, extroverts, shy, quiet, anybody, go through the awkwardness and reflect on it and think, why did that feel weird? What was it about that? Did it really matter? Does it matter in the big scheme of life? And the other thing too, I think, is prepare yourself for social opportunities. A couple of we call them in our dating industry first date rituals, right? We've talked a lot about this. What do we do before a date? Do we go straight from work to a date? Not if you want to make a great connection,
Yeah.
right? So go home, find the time to recharge that battery, shake it off. I love to say dance to your favorite your favorite music in front of the mirror and look at yourself and say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens. Have fun and be authentic to yourself. And really, again, practice that because that's a hard thing to master for anybody of any social capabilities, right? So lean into it, get weird, get awkward. Those are special people. Those are the rock stars. Those are the individuals that stand out, are the ones that just love and accept all their quirks. So go
That's,
after it.
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
On that note, I feel like that's the best advice that we can give for introverts.
Yes.
And I think that we can end it here. Thank you so much, Heather, for
Thank
chatting with
you.
me. And I hope we can chat again soon.
Absolutely. Always a blast.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.